Genies, soulmates, and really bad decisions. Ethan Walker had never been the kind of man who needed much. At least that's what he always told himself. He had a stable job, a cozy home, and a predictable routine that kept his life comfortable. But deep down, there was something missing. An itch in the back of his mind that he couldn't quite scratch. Maybe it was excitement, maybe it was purpose, or maybe, just maybe, it was something far more unexpected. He had no idea that fate, in the form of an old, dusty lamp, was about to turn his world upside down. He had built a stable career, owned a comfortable home, and had a small but solid circle of friends who cared about him. He was content, or so he told himself. Yet, as he sat alone in his apartment on a quiet Friday night, staring at the city lights outside his window, a hollow feeling gnawed at him. There was an emptiness he couldn't quite place, a yearning for something beyond material stability. It wasn't loneliness exactly, but rather an unspoken longing for a deeper connection, one he had never quite managed to find. Relationships had always been tricky for him. He struggled to express himself, to bridge the gap between admiration and meaningful conversation. With a sigh, he leaned back on his couch, absent-mindedly flipping through a book he had read before. He wasn't sure what he was waiting for. Fate? A miracle? Or maybe just a sign that something was about to change. One afternoon, as he strolled through a local antique shop, something caught his eye. A dusty, ornate lamp with golden engravings that shimmered under the dim lighting. It sat on a cluttered shelf, seemingly untouched for years. The old shopkeeper noticed Ethan's interest and let out a chuckle. "That one? Been here for ages. No one's ever wanted it. Tell you what, I'll give it to you for cheap." Ethan hesitated for a moment before nodding. He wasn't sure why, but something about the lamp intrigued him. After a quick exchange of cash, he left the shop, the lamp tucked under his arm, unaware that his life was about to change forever. When he got home, he decided to clean it. The moment he rubbed the surface, the air around him crackled with an unseen force, sending shivers down his spine. Suddenly, an explosion of thick purple smoke erupted, swirling violently like a miniature storm. The walls trembled as golden sparks flickered within the mist, forming into the shape of a towering figure. As the smoke cleared, Ethan gasped. Standing before him was a man adorned in flowing robes, shimmering with an ethereal glow and golden cuffs that pulsed with a strange, otherworldly energy. "I am Zafir, the genie of the lamp." His voice thundered with authority, shaking the very air around them. "You have 3 wishes, mortal. Choose wisely, for the power you wield is not to be taken lightly." Ethan stared, his brain short-circuiting. His jaw dropped so low he half expected it to unhinge like a cartoon character. He stumbled backward, knocking over a lamp and nearly tripping over his own feet. "Nope. No way. This isn't real. I hit my head, didn't I?" he muttered, patting himself down as if checking whether he was still corporeal. His heart pounded. Should he run, fight, call an exorcist? But his body had other plans. It chose the classic deer-in-the-headlights approach. He threw up his hands instinctively, as if warding off an attack, though what exactly he thought an all-powerful being might do, he had no idea. 3 wishes? He finally croaked out, his voice an octave higher than usual. 3 wishes? Zafir nodded, arms crossed. "Yes, and before you ask, no wishing for more wishes." Ethan chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of his neck as his mind reeled. "Honestly, I don't really know what to wish for. I have everything I need," he said, though his voice wavered slightly. His heart was still hammering from the sheer impossibility of what had just happened. Had he really summoned a genie? Was he hallucinating? Was this some elaborate prank? His thoughts raced wildly. What if he wished for something ridiculous and the genie took it literally? What if he messed up and accidentally doomed the world? His body was still on high alert, his muscles tense as if he expected Zafir to suddenly start breathing fire. Slowly, as the silence stretched between them, Ethan exhaled, forcing himself to relax. The sheer authority in the genie's voice had shocked him, but Zafir didn't seem hostile, just expectant. Maybe this really was happening, maybe, just maybe, he should stop freaking out and think. He took another breath, steadied himself, and finally said, "All right. Let's think about this." Ethan thought for a moment, then spoke carefully. "Well, I guess if I had to wish for something, I'd wish for a soulmate, someone to share my life with." Zafir's eyes widened. "A soulmate? That's unexpected. Do you have someone in mind?" Ethan frowned. "No, that wouldn't be right. It would be unethical to claim someone specifically. I don't want to take away someone's free will or force fate. I just want to meet the person who is right for me, who is meant to be." Zafir regarded him for a long moment before nodding approvingly. "That is a rare kind of wish, one made with wisdom. That's a first. Most people go straight for money or power." Zafir was silent for a moment before he sighed. "You know, you remind me of someone." Ethan tilted his head. "Oh?" Zafir looked away, his usually confident demeanor faltering. "I once loved someone too, another genie. Her name was Layla. She was brilliant, radiant like the stars, and she made even eternity feel too short when I was with her. But fate was cruel. We were separated when our lamps were sold in a black market auction, torn apart and cast into the unknown like forgotten relics. I never saw her again. I searched for centuries, but genies are bound by the whims of their captors. She could be anywhere, or nowhere." His voice wavered, and for the first time Ethan saw something raw and painful beneath the genie's imposing presence. Deep, aching sorrow. To Ethan's surprise, the all-powerful genie's eyes welled up with tears. His lip trembled as he tried to maintain his composure, but soon enough he let out a wretched sob that sounded eerily like a wail in distress. He sniffled dramatically, wiping his nose on his sleeve. I promised myself I wouldn't cry," he wailed, shoulders shaking. "I'm supposed to be an all-powerful being, not an emotional wreck." Ethan's eyes widened. There," he offered hesitantly, patting Zafir's back like one might console a particularly dramatic toddler. "You want a tissue?" Zafir dramatically waved a hand, summoning a silk handkerchief out of thin air, blowing his nose so loudly it sounded like a trumpet blast. It's just so unfair," he bawled. "We were perfect together, and now she's lost forever." Ethan, now torn between concern and the sheer absurdity of the situation, muttered, "Okay, this might be the weirdest emotional breakdown I've ever witnessed, and I've been to some wild family reunions." Ethan, feeling both awkward and sympathetic, patted Zafir on the shoulder. "Hey man, I didn't mean to bring up bad memories." Zafir sniffled dramatically. "It's just so sad. We were perfect together, but now she's lost." Ethan suddenly knew what to do. His heart swelled with determination, and a newfound excitement coursed through him. "All right, my second wish. Help me find Layla," he declared, his voice filled with an enthusiasm that surprised even himself. For the first time in his life, he felt like he had a purpose beyond his own desires. The heartbreak in Zafir's voice had struck a chord in him, and he couldn't just stand by and do nothing. His own longing for companionship seemed insignificant compared to the centuries of love lost between the genies. Zafir gasped, eyes widening as if he had just been given the most precious gift in the universe. "You beautiful human," he cried, throwing his arms around Ethan in a dramatic embrace, nearly squeezing the life out of him. "Okay, air. I still need air," Ethan wheezed, waving his arms wildly. After composing himself, Zafir clapped his hands, and, in a blink, They were standing in the bustling streets of Cairo, Egypt. The last rumor I heard was that her lamp had been sold to a collector here. They wandered through the markets, trying to keep a low profile. The scorching sun bore down on them, making Ethan sweat through his shirt as he wiped his brow. The air was thick with the aroma of roasted meats, fresh bread, and exotic spices, mingling with the scent of incense burning in the corners of vendor stalls. Merchants called out in loud, rhythmic voices, enticing buyers with dazzling fabrics, handcrafted jewelry, and mysterious trinkets. Ethan was both enthralled and overwhelmed. Wow, this place is incredible and unbelievably hot. How do people wear long robes in this weather? He muttered, tugging at his collar. Zafir smirked. It's all about composure, mortal. You must embrace the heat as part of the experience. After searching for hours, Zafir's eyes suddenly widened, his entire body tensing with excitement. He grabbed Ethan's arm, nearly yanking it out of its socket. That's it. I'd recognize those patterns anywhere. He pointed at a golden lamp resting in a lavish shop window, nestled among other priceless artifacts. The problem? The lamp was inside a heavily secured shop. I can't take it, Zafir whispered. Genie rules, but you, a mere mortal, can... Ethan sighed. Great, now I'm a thief. Under the cover of night, Ethan snuck into the shop, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The display case stood before him, the golden lamp gleaming under the dim security lights. He reached for it, his fingers barely grazing the cool metal before he carefully lifted it from its pedestal. For a split second he thought he had pulled it off, until a deafening siren erupted, the room flashing red with alarm lights. Oh, you have got to be kidding me, he hissed through clenched teeth. Instantly, footsteps thundered from the back of the shop. Ethan's adrenaline surged. Why does this always happen in movies? He muttered, as he spun on his heel, clutching the lamp tightly to his chest. Just as a guard rounded the corner, his eyes widened in shock. Run! Zafir yelled from outside, his voice urgent. Ethan didn't need to be told twice. He bolted for the exit, dodging shelves and leaping over a low display table, knocking over a row of decorative vases in the process. The guard shouted something in Arabic, but Ethan was too busy focusing on his escape. The night air hit him like a wall as he burst out onto the streets of Cairo, the sound of pursuit hot on his heels. Just as they turned into an alley, Zafir grabbed Ethan's wrist. Hold on! With a flick of his hand, they were back in Ethan's apartment. Ethan collapsed on the couch, panting, his mind still reeling from what had just happened. That was way too close, he gasped, running a hand through his disheveled hair. He sat up abruptly. Wait, I just committed a crime. I stole something. I am now officially a thief. He looked at Zafir with wild eyes. Do I need to change my name? Move to another country? What if there are magical bounty hunters looking for me? Oh God, do they have magic bounty hunters? Zafir chuckled, leaning against the wall with a smug grin. Relax, mortal. You're overreacting. Besides, it was for love, wasn't it? That makes it noble. Ethan threw his hands in the air, pacing back and forth like a lawyer preparing for the world's most ridiculous defense case. Oh, great. That's totally going to work. I did it for love, Your Honor. And then what? The judge pats me on the head, gives me a medal, and lets me go? Oh, wait. Maybe they'll name a holiday after me. International Day of Romantic Burglary. He spun dramatically, pointing at Zafir. And you. You encourage this. You should be my accomplice. Do genies even do prison time? Do they have magical solitary confinement? Zafir chuckled, unfazed. Relax, mortal, you worry too much. Besides, if anything, you should be thanking me for this adventure. Ethan groaned. Oh, sure. Thanks a lot, partner in crime. I always wanted fugitive added to my resume. Zafir smirked. Well, if it makes you feel any better, we technically never existed in that shop to begin with. Magic and all that. Ethan exhaled heavily, rubbing his temples. I need a drink and possibly a lawyer. Zafir grinned. But we got it, now rub it! Ethan hesitated before rubbing the lamp. This time a swirl of blue smoke erupted, expanding like a celestial dance of mist and light, filling the room with an otherworldly glow. Slowly, a form emerged, a vision of pure enchantment. She was breathtaking beyond words, a woman whose beauty seemed sculpted by the gods themselves. Her deep sapphire eyes shimmered like captured stardust, reflecting the mysteries of the universe, while her long, flowing black hair cascaded like the silken waves of a midnight sea. The very air around her seemed to hum with an alluring energy, as if nature itself paused to marvel at her presence. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He had never seen anything so utterly mesmerizing. His heart pounded, caught between awe and disbelief. She blinked, her gaze filled with ethereal grace before it finally landed on Zafir. "Zafir," she gasped. "Layla!" Zafir cried, running to her. They embraced, years of separation melting away in a heartbeat. Layla pulled back slightly, her sapphire eyes filled with confusion as she looked around the unfamiliar room. Zafir. How? What happened? Where am I? The last thing I remember was... Her eyes fell on Ethan, and she narrowed them slightly. Who is this? Zafir grinned, his energy radiating excitement. Layla, this wonderful human is Ethan. He used one of his wishes to find you, can you believe it? Instead of wishing for wealth, power, or immortality, he helped reunite us. And get this, he even stole your lamp himself. Layla's eyes widened. You stole my lamp? She turned back to Ethan, folding her arms. I assume you're not a professional thief, then? Ethan let out a nervous chuckle. Nope. Just an amateur. But in my defense, there was a time crunch and, well, desperate times, desperate measures. Zafir clapped a hand on Ethan's back. Noble, desperate measures, I told you, Layla. He's got the heart of a hero. As the genies held each other, the air shimmered once more, rippling like a mirage in the desert. A soft, golden light flickered in the room, growing brighter until another figure materialized before them. She was breathtaking. Her kind eyes radiated warmth, her smile as inviting as the first rays of morning sunlight. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. Was this really happening? Zafir turned to him with a triumphant grin. And now, Ethan, it is time for you to meet your soulmate. He gestured grandly toward the woman, his voice booming with the weight of destiny itself. The woman smiled, her eyes locking onto Ethan's with an intensity that made his breath hitch. Hi, I'm Sophia, she said, her voice like the softest melody, wrapping around him like a gentle embrace. Ethan felt rooted to the spot, his heart pounding as if it recognized something before his mind could catch up. Hi, he finally managed, though his voice was barely above a whisper. His usual awkwardness was absent. Something about her felt like home, like every unspoken wish he had never dared to voice was standing right in front of him. Sophia tilted her head slightly, studying him with quiet curiosity, and then she smiled again, this time with a warmth that sent an unexpected rush of exhilaration through him. It was as if the universe itself whispered in his ear, assuring him that everything had finally aligned. His heart pounded in his chest, his breath catching as a strange but wonderful sense of belonging settled over him. For the first time in his life, he felt seen, not just noticed, but truly seen. There was no need for clever words or impressive gestures. Sophia's eyes held an understanding that spoke directly to his soul. Ethan had never believed in fate, but as he looked into her gaze, he realized he just might have been wrong all along. It was as if the universe had just clicked into place. As the room filled with happiness, Ethan realized he still had one wish left. He looked at the genies and knew exactly what to do. For my last wish, I wish for you both to be free, he declared proudly, feeling like a true hero. Light enveloped the genies, their golden cuffs breaking apart in a dazzling burst of magic. Zafir and Layla stared at each other, overwhelmed with emotion. "We're free?" Layla whispered in awe. Zafir whooped, spinning Layla around in excitement. "We're free! No more lamps. No more waiting for mortals to rub us. No more awkwardly sitting in enchanted darkness." Ethan watched them, leaning back with a smirk. "Wow. I've never seen anyone so happy to be unemployed." Layla laughed, still holding on to Zafir. "You have no idea, Ethan. Do you know how boring it is to sit in a lamp for centuries? No Netflix, no books, just endless waiting and hoping someone picks you up." Zafir grinned. "And half the time, it's some power-hungry warlord or an overly ambitious teenager who wishes for something ridiculous like unlimited cheese." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Wait, someone really wished for that?" Layla sighed. "You'd be surprised. Let's just say, centuries in a lamp have shown me that humans have interesting priorities." Ethan grinned, feeling good about his noble gesture, until Layla suddenly turned to him with a smirk. "You fool. You had 3 more wishes from me." Ethan's smile froze. "Wait, what?" Layla burst out laughing, slapping her knee as she doubled over. Ethan, meanwhile, stood frozen, his brain struggling to process the fact that he had just wasted 3 whole wishes. His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air, before he finally sputtered. Wait, so you're telling me I could have wished for literally anything? A mansion? A lifetime supply of pizza? A pet dragon?" Zafir nodded solemnly. "Yes, my dear, forgetful mortal, but instead, you chose to free us. Very noble, very foolish." Ethan groaned, placing his hands on his head. "This is officially the worst financial decision I've ever made." Layla wiped tears from her eyes, still giggling. "Oh, don't worry, Ethan. At least you have love. And no take-backsies." Zafir wiped a tear from his eye, shaking his head in amusement. "Oh, Ethan, my dear, generous, oblivious friend. You could have had anything." Ethan groaned, dragging a hand down his face. "No one told me there was a second set of wishes. Isn't there some kind of genie handbook or read before rubbing disclaimer?" Sophia giggled beside him and took his hand. "Hey, at least you got what you really wanted," she said sweetly. Ethan looked at her, then at Zafir and Layla, who were still crying with laughter at his expense. He sighed, shaking his head before chuckling himself. "Yeah, I guess I did." Zafir clapped him on the back. "Cheer up, mortal. At least you'll go down in history as the guy who freed 2 genies and managed to completely forget about his remaining 3 wishes." Ethan groaned. "I could have had wealth, a yacht, a lifetime supply of tacos." Layla snorted. "And yet you spent 2 wishes on us for love. I have to admit it's kind of endearing. Though, let's be honest, you probably would have wasted those other 3 anyway. I mean, a lifetime supply of tacos. Really?" Ethan sighed, rubbing his temples. Yeah, laugh it up. At least I got my soulmate, right? And I didn't wish for something ridiculous like, I don't know, a talking parrot that only quotes action movies." Sophia squeezed his hand. "Exactly. Besides, I like tacos too. Maybe we can just earn them the old-fashioned way. You know, with jobs and not magical loopholes." Zafir grinned. "Oh, I like her. She's got humor. And more sense than you, clearly." Ethan shook his head, letting out a defeated chuckle. "Fine. I guess I'll just have to live with my very poor decision-making skills." Layla winked. "Don't worry, we'll remind you for the rest of your life." Layla snorted. "Honestly, I kind of respected he spent 2 wishes on us. For love."